Hello and thank you for joining us for this final series of Tune Into Tourism. And we're looking to the future for this series. The Outlook 2030 strategy was launched on the 4th of March in 2020, and of course the world has changed an awful lot since then. But the principles are still as valid as they were then, and we're here to break down those key priorities as they were set out back in 2020. Here to help me today is Mark Krothel, who's the Chief Executive of the Scottish Tourism Alliance. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. So tell us how the strategy came about and what the sort of impetus was behind it.
Well, the strategy that we had before 2030 was Tourism Scotland 2020, so it was coming to a time where obviously we needed to think about the future about 18 months out, and the Tourism Leadership Group said, right, we need to get to work here, and what are we going to do? So I was asked to chair the steering group of the strategy, which was developed in full collaboration with the partner agencies and the Scottish Government. And we set about going out to roughly around 3,500 industry colleagues and other stakeholders to invite what they thought around the success of Tourism 2020, which its target was to put an extra £1 billion worth of revenue on tourism spend. And it was mainly focused on driving memorable experiences and obviously looking at the foundation stones of strengthening leadership and capacity, but really the bottom route was collaboration. So we had very definitely, I think, cemented the collaboration piece really well. But what it failed to address was the importance around business, in particular in some of the challenges that businesses face, and understanding those challenges and focusing on business. And people, of course, a lot of time was spent to deliver experiences. You need great people, and we knew that we would have the workforce challenges that we've got right now, and how do we continue to attract people into our sector back then, but putting some greater emphasis on people. And then place, of course, the destinations where tourism happens, where the vibrancy and the places are all very different. And the last one, of course, experiences. So that's the core relationship back to TS 2020. But the climate change was upon us, the world is changing, and so the sustainable agenda, of course, was very much at the forefront of everyone's minds. And we could see through the trends of future trends of travel, the mega trends that were there, around what type of experience those future customers were looking for. So limitless discoveries, technology to stimulate, and really wanting to do those bucket list experiences, but being very, very conscious as well of travel and sustainable travel. So the working group, as I say, came about. We developed the strategy over the course of about 18 months with lots of consultation, and brought it to the launch on the 4th of March 2020 with the First Minister in front of an audience of the best part of 1,200 people. And
then the world changed
forever.
forever.
Changed forever, yeah. So here we are. But it's certainly been looked upon as a very good piece of work, and it's still very relevant. As I said earlier, part of the early stages of when STURG, the Scottish Tourism Emergency Response Group, came together very quickly, was to do what we call the COVID overlay of the strategy, to check its relevance and it being fit for purpose. And setting that ambition of being the world leader in 21st century tourism was one that we genuinely feel that Scotland has an opportunity to and should be looking to strive to be that. Maybe the world leader in 21st century tourism recovery perhaps, but beyond that, why not the aspiration, keep that aspiration in mind.
Well, we have had a question in from Cheryl Chapman at Visit Scotland, and it's not one with a simple, easy answer, but she says, what do we actually mean by world leader in tourism, and how far along are we in achieving that? I think it's a good question, because what do we actually mean by that, and how do we measure our success?
It's a really great question, and we grappled a lot with having, when you want to call yourself a world leader, how do you measure it? And what does world leading look like? And I think it's open to interpretation. I think we can honestly say that is. But I personally feel that, and many others would say the same, that Scotland is already world leading in certain parts. Festivals, for example, we've got the fantastic Edinburgh Festival, we have the Tiree Wave Festival, we've got book festivals, we have a year-round calendar of festivals, and it's in our DNA to be able to deliver a festival culture really well. And our destination countries from around the world look to Scotland to see what we're doing, and in many regards starts to be a world leader is when you want that acknowledgement from your peer group to say, actually, Scotland do this really well. They are the best at it. So that is a sort of, I guess, an endorsement of being a world leader. Mm-hmm. In people, we talk about recruitment. I've said this before, and if ever we got to this point, it would be absolutely amazing. I think we could tick the box and all pat ourselves on the back and probably retire. We have a challenge of recruitment. World leading in people, looking after our workforce, attracting people into our industry is when there are no vacancies in Scotland. Every hotel, restaurant, cafe, bar, adventure operator is fully staffed. It has a complement of staff that don't want to leave. They leave when they want to leave at a point of retirement, and those vacancies don't exist, but everybody aspires to want to work in Scotland for a Scottish business because we are fantastic at what we do with our people, we invest in them, we have a great place to work, it's fun, and of course in some respects, like Lausanne Hotel School, there's a lot of aspiration to go and study at Lausanne Hotel School for hospitality. It's got world-renowned reputation. Harvard Business School, the same sort of thing. So no vacancies, that's the tick box for world leading in people front. Mm-hmm. But you know, there are a lot of other good things underneath that would mean we do the very best we possibly can, and we're looked upon by our peers and others to be the best, as best in class.
Mm-hmm. Well, moving on from that, we talked about people there and the importance of that and that goal of no vacancies, but it does seem quite an awful long way away, particularly at the moment. We had another question in from Dan Rose Bristow at the Torridon, and he says the current crisis and the one for the next few years really will be employment. How do you think the strategy is working to tackle employment, and what do you think the outlook is for 2030? We have to be very careful we don't end up with a fragmented industry where visitors can't find somewhere to eat or stay on a Sunday, Monday or Tuesday in Scotland. Already we've had to change our business model to suit the number of staff we can find, which is sadly at odds with the demand we're seeing. I would forecast that we will be shrinking our workforce by 20 to 30% because we're unable to find suitable people to work for us. Now that seems to be a problem across the board, and particularly in the Highlands and Islands. You know, how does the strategy help us tackle that problem?
It's a global challenge. I mean, and I think we have to remind ourselves of that first and foremost. This isn't a challenge that's unique to Scotland, unique to the United Kingdom. It is a global challenge, and everywhere I've been fortunate to travel and be invited to speak, you know, those same, our counterpart organisations in those destinations, whether it's in Canada or Australia, they all say the same thing. We have a workforce challenge. And I put it right back to grassroots education of how people's position our industry as being a career of choice, because there is perhaps, and this is where the industry has to play its part, there's a lack of understanding and an appreciation of the many, many opportunities that exist in the sector for a young person to thrive and really have a good career. So many people think, oh, that's what you do when you go to uni, you go and work behind a bar and you earn a bit of pin money and, you know, beer money, etc. Or, you know, you're a kitchen porter. It fails to acknowledge, or they don't talk about the sort of the digital marketing roles that exist in the sector, the guiding, being an engineer on a mountain railway. We say tourism's everyone's business, and if one thing COVID has done is demonstrated that when tourism stops, everybody is impacted by it. But it's that breadth of opportunity and that understanding of what the sector has to offer. We actually also need to get better at how we look after our people. And I'm not saying that, you know, we don't. There are many, many, many hundreds, thousands of exemplars in terms of how they look after their staff, and they make their people feel part of the whole experience and allow those individuals and that younger generation and the older generation to be more part of the product and the experience. And investing in people is key, and the tourism strategy people part is around investing in people. It's around creating the right learning environments for them. We've just seen through COVID £2 million worth of Scottish Government money invested in the tourism, hospitality and talent training development programme. But, you know, a great blend of nearly 3,500 colleagues in industry growing their skill sets through supervisory leadership and management and leadership modules, and giving them really, really good skills and tips to be able to flourish. Because with the gap that we've got, we need all of our existing team and network to be even better skilled, and they in turn become ambassadors. It's maintaining those programs and giving those people the opportunity. But on the flip side to that, of course, you know, the cost of business is rising. I think most hotels will say the average payroll is about 50% now of what the turnover used to be. In my days of operating, it was around 28-30%. So, you know, trying to find that balance of being able to invest in your people. And pay scales are, you know, again, this perception that the industry is badly paid. Yes, a few are having to pay at base rate, but you accelerate really quickly. I only heard last week a housekeeper or a maid in Isla is being paid £20 an hour. And I think, you know, we also need to allow the people in the industry to be saying, you know, how good they are and get them to advocate too. But yes, businesses, the Hoteliers Charter is, sit on the board of that. That's a UK initiative again, and it very much talks about, you know, the Fair Work principles, but also about being able to demonstrate the values, the 10 charter values in your business that reassure the influencers, the parents, etc., and others that our industry is actually a very credible industry, and it's an industry that you can thrive and prosper in and make it, you can go a long way in it, you know. So I started out as a milkman, you know, that was my first job, and I peeled potatoes, and here I am today in a very privileged position, you know, leading an industry that is worth £15 billion to the Scottish economy.
Obviously, selling it as a career of choice rather than being something that's seen perhaps as less than or as a filler before you do something else. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with it also being a fantastic job for young people to do that offers them a lifestyle, especially in Scotland, of being able to get out and explore and enjoy all the wonderful things that we have to offer.
The travel opportunity is huge, obviously maybe a bit more restricted in how you can travel, but the freedom to travel and the freedom to have so many different learning conversations with so many different people, you know, is immense. You're not going to get this opportunity. The other thing I always say to people is that anyone who's coming into a tourism or hospitality business is coming to have a good time, whether they're going to a conference, they're going because they want to enjoy it, or whether they're going for a meal, or whether they're going to an event. You don't get that in any other industry, that your customer is already coming to have a good time first and foremost. If you get it wrong, then there's a bit more of a challenge, but you've got the customer on the right foot before you even start, and I think that's you know, really key. So we have to change. The rhetoric has to change. There's this good jobs, you know, we need good jobs. Well, actually, you know what? There are housekeepers. For them, being a housekeeper, they are doing it because they want to do it and they see it as a good job.
And it can offer flexibility around, you know, other commitments and actually offer the opportunity to have real work-life balance that you know, other jobs don't offer.
And COVID has obviously thrown that up into the mix now, is that more and more people they want to have a better work-life balance. They've seen that, they've got more flexibility. So businesses and owners, operators are responding of having to look how they trade and how they work. You know, Dan's point around what we don't want is, you know, half the destination being shut for 3 days a week. So there it's about the industry and those businesses and those communities working very closely together to try and make sure that the offering is, and the balance of product proposition is there for 7 days, 24/7 now. We've seen much more online stuff as well. I'm recently just back from a holiday abroad, and again I noticed in the destination I went to that there were restaurants closed on certain days of the week, but there was always something there, and that was because the communities and the destinations work very closely together.
Well, that I guess is my next question. Is we talk about bigger picture stuff of attracting people in and selling the industry as a whole, as well as individual roles within it. But what can, you know, small, medium-sized businesses, people sometimes family run, what can they actually do?
First and foremost, every small business, or every business really in the destination really needs to connect with their destination organisation. In some cases it's the local chambers, some of them are privately run, but the DMOs are really a key sort of catalyst really, so they can come together with other like-minded businesses and learn and network. And there's a lot of new entrants out there over COVID, a lot of change of ownership, so that's a really good place to go. I would of course say connect with the Scottish Tourism Alliance as well, go onto our website, and then, you know, follow the news stories and understand where it is. But you've got organisations like Springboard, as I mentioned earlier, that obviously the DYW programs, developing young workforce programs in the local destinations, and of course the DWP, who are working very closely with industry and going together in some of these initiatives that we've done, hospitality takeover days in schools. So you know, the kids and the younger generation, anybody really, wants to hear from the real people. It's challenging because, of course, you're having to run your business as well. So finding those windows of opportunity to get out. But technology is obviously playing its part as well. So looking at different sort of platforms and stuff of streaming live information of what those things, TikTok, of course, getting the younger generation plugged into that. These are all sorts of things that we are looking at internally, and how do we reach new audiences but also help businesses share those messages and encourage them to come on, and opening up your door. Graduate programs, graduate apprenticeship programs, young graduate opportunities, you know, they are there in abundance, and there's a lot of support as well if you're a business that gets behind that to help you through it. So, but connect with your DMO, connect with the STA, your trade body, if you're in the Association of Self-Caterers, if you're a self-catering business, or ASA, if you're a visitor attraction. You know, there's lots of networks out there to help you.
We talked a little bit about this, the kind of support that's out there. Obviously, tapping into the strategy allows you to tap into the common goals, sort of shared vision, as you put it in the strategy. And so then the benefits of that is that there will be support there. There will be programs that you can benefit from. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those schemes, perhaps, that smaller businesses could be taking advantage of?
Well, there's a lot of support, obviously, that's been there through COVID, not nearly, obviously, as much as the businesses would like, but that coordinated support, I think, first and foremost, we have to acknowledge that Scottish Government, local authorities and the industry together as a collective with Visit Scotland, you know, we've done our best to provide that support and signpost it. What's really also critically important is the language in which that communication goes out, so people understand it and they can realise that it's for them too, and it's not presented in such a way that it's a minefield. So Find My Business Support, of course, exists on the platform. Skills Development Scotland has got a great program, but you know, it's again plugging into your destination organisation. VisitScotland.org is a great repository of information and support, as well as obviously ourselves, and we're all signposting to a lot of the same platforms. And you know, an initiative that's coming out through COVID is you know, one of the task force recovery recommendations is, you know, destination net zero. How do we get there? What does that look like for a business, a small business? So the hard work and all the bits and pieces behind the scenes is already being started by the enterprise agencies. So we can be presented to business in a meaningful way and also a manageable way. Yeah. And then another one is to create a tourism observatory, and that's not to look at the skies or the stars, but it's about data collection, and actually there's a massive amount of information that exists out there, which you know, is really important if you're making an informed decision now on how you choose to spend what money you have on investing in your product or people. You want to make sure that risk is de-risked as much as possible. So the data that's being pulled together through this observatory project will give you as much insight and information in a much more real-time way, rather than waiting for 6 months of information to come through. And there'll be some fact sheets that will be available for simple reading, and then for those that want to do the analysis in a bit more detail, they'll be able to access that as well. So that's just one example, and of course the education piece that I mentioned earlier through the Hospitality Development Programme, the graduate apprentice programs. In we've got you know, the Apprenticeship and Hospitality Initiative, which is fantastic as well. We've got a lot of businesses on board with that too. And then, you know, our partner organisations, the FSB, Scottish Chambers of Commerce, we all work really, really closely together now. And, you know, it's accessing. If you don't ask, you don't get as well. And nobody should be afraid to just ask the questions or connect with any of the main organisations, because the support is out there. But we know we probably need to be a bit more clever with how we present that support, and that's one thing the Scottish Tourism Alliance will be doing over the course of the next 6 to 8 months and beyond. Speak to your neighbours as well. You know, that's the other thing about collaboration, and what we've found over the last, I've been doing this job for 10 years now, and the spirit of collaboration and the way of working together has become even stronger. So there are far more conversations now taking place. That competition aspect of, oh, I can't speak, they're my competitors. Speak to your competitor, because working together is much better in the long run, and you'll get more out of it too.
What about diverse businesses? What does that really mean?
Well, using the agritourism example, you know, it's more than just the traditional operation of a typical hotel. We're seeing across the accommodation sector a great range of different types of accommodation, from glamping pods to caravans to, you know, the traditional guest house and the hotel, the different types of apart hotels and offerings. But also then you've got on the farm, you've got that sort of transition into those wonderful hideaway experiences as well. The outdoor adventure sector, again, very clever in their innovation around some of the product. Their pedaddling was what I heard up in Oban. Again, the other day, the Argyll, the Scottish outdoor, you know, the adventure coast of Scotland.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop you. What's pedaddling?
Pedaddling. Well, it's a combination of basically pedaling, swimming, and actually doing everything on the water that's a bit different. And I'm going to get absolutely slated by the Argyll guys because it's probably not exactly.
Pedaling and paddling?
Pedaling and paddling, yeah. Right. So pedal power on the water, on the land and in the water, swimming in the water. Obviously you've got, you know, paddle ski, you've got sailing, you have all that marine aspect. But then on shore you've got, you know, a lot of adventure opportunity. Of course, we go into 2023 with the World Cycling Championships taking place in Scotland again, and cycling will become a big focus for the whole country, whether it's mountain biking or just simple, you know, outdoor adventure. And that healthy lifestyle, of course, that everybody is needing and wanting to make sure that they can continue with. You know, it's tourism being a force for good in all the different ways that it can be and is.
Well, Mark, before I let you go, we have talked a lot about some of the challenges that we have, but what about the success stories? Where are we doing really well? Where are we really on track for that 2030 goal?
Well, I think it's a difficult one because the challenges are there. We can't lose sight of the rising costs and energy and all of the horrific things that, you know, the Ukrainian impacts happening. But our real strength, again, is in our people. There's this we have a natural resilience in our industry. We have a will to win. And I've been out and about over the last few weeks since, you know, it's been possible to come together and meet in person. And, you know, here we are today, a big local destination conference happening next door. And there's a sense of belief and there's a sense I'm not going to be defeated. And, you know, if you look back through the history books, you know, we've come up against foot and mouth and all sorts of other challenges before, and we're still here. People will always want to eat, they'll always want to drink, they'll always want to go somewhere and have a bit of a break and a holiday. One day oil will run out, but tourism will be here forever. And we've just got to have that belief and keep learning and working together. And some of the collaboration that we've seen over the last few months and years has been phenomenal. The adaptation to technology, and going back to that very first question you asked me on the 4th of March when we launched the strategy, but as a steering group had thought, okay, we now need to bring forward a set of actions. And those actions that we thought were going to be the ones that would be the quick wins are probably now at the back of the queue, and the ones that we thought were going to be really difficult to put into play and get a buy-in from industry have accelerated right to the front of the queue.
As?
The adoption of technology.
Right.
You know, as an example, this fear of technology has suddenly sort of gone out the window, and once your neighbour started to do it, online ordering from your table and all QR codes.
Yeah.
I mean, I all know how to wave on a LinkedIn, Zoom, and, you know, we can connect with so many more people as well. So the hybrid conference and being able to communicate with your customer in a very different way is something that has, you know, really come to the front. And of course, our sustainable agenda again remains very much front and centre of you know, Scotland's responsible piece in the world. And I think tourism sector has a big part to play in that, and we're committed to doing it.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Julia.